Welcome back to Holistic Healing Association. I'm Erin Darcy. I'm certified in embodied processing and clinical hypnosis. I have a very special guest with me.
Shall I introduce myself a little bit?
Yes, if you'd like.
Sure. So my name is Grazia Di Giorgio, and I'm right now I'm in the south of Italy, that's called Bari. I'm an Italian American person. Well, first of all, I'm a Jungian analyst. I'm a senior Jungian analyst. I'm a teaching analyst. I teach, I supervise, I train a little bit internationally. I am active in the States. I'm on the board of the Jung Institute of Colorado. I also am a somatic experiencing practitioner. I trained in Colorado mainly. So I've been a somatic experiencing practitioner since 2009, I believe. I'm also a contemplative psychotherapist.
When we experience development of trauma, often we can carry deep shame. And that can be because as a child, we may have been criticized a lot. We may have been told we're no good. We may have been abused. It could be we were bullied, we were excommunicated from a group. That can be a huge shame. And shame can make us want to hide. It can lead us to addictions. It can keep us busy, working all the time. Shame can have a significant impact on our life and on our relationships. How does shame feel in the body?
Shame is a deadening in the body. Somatically, the emotion of shame tends to appear around 2 years old, to the age of 2. That's the time. That's the time when the child moves around, and then they would say, "Stop it! Don't do it! Now you're doing something." And then you see the child stopping. In its raw way, shame, and of course there's more to say, but in its just raw first pristine form, is a dorsal shutdown shame. It's this sense of a dorsal shutdown. People tend to be deflated, right? They stop. In fact, when we're with children, right, ideally a neuro or trauma-informed person, when we have to do that and stop the child like this, then it would be helpful to repair and to say, look how good you stopped. That's great.
Because the repair is so important.
Important to recognize, because it's very important the child stopped, but then they are left with this sense, right? That, oh, I did something wrong, right? There is this dorsal shutdown. So it's helpful then to say, oh, that's great, you stopped, good, very good, you did
Exactly.
well. To support. So this is the somatic aspect, right, of shame.
Yes.
Which I would say also carries something really important about the evolutionary value of this very difficult emotion. Because, for example, perhaps you know this already, but Judith Lerner Herman, the one who wrote Trauma and Recovery, one of the late 90s, a very important book. First time they talked about post-traumatic stress as something that impacts victims of abuse. First, they used to talk only about soldiers. One of the interesting things that they found out was that women who suffered violence, sexual violence, I think particularly, anyway, victims of abuse, those who at the onset, right after the trauma, they did interviews, those who at the beginning blamed themselves for the trauma,
That's often. So a lot of people.
I'll say more about this, but the interesting thing is that the women who blame themselves, they had in the after medium length of time follow-up, they had a better outcome than the women who didn't blame themselves. And how
Really?
yes, they were very surprised by this find.
Okay.
Now, make some distinctions. But one basic way here is that shame, like for the child who is stopped and mortified before they put their hand on the hot plate, you know, when people blame themselves, and this is why it comes up, I think it's important to understand that blaming myself, first of all, means that I have power, that this thing happened to me and I did something. And I have some power. And if I think of, and if I don't do that, or I do something else, I can be okay.
Okay.
Of course, I'm saying this is somatic. I mean, this is very different from blaming the victim, because the fact is that shame then there is this part that is important, but that's not all of it, because shame is a hallmark of trauma. And that's a corrosive shame, right? This is, and I mean, I'd be curious, I'm sure that the long-term results of these women that they were studying, they are not the same. Because trauma, as we know, right, works underground. You know, you can cope. Typically, we compensate many times, not always, depends on resources, on what is happening. But there is a time that people compensate, right? Now we know that when people come 10 years later and say, I was raped, right? This is very common. This is typically what happens, right? That whatever happens stays in there, it's encapsulated, I cope, and this is good. I do other things. And then at a certain time, at certain point, sometimes these things open up. And then I have to deal with this, right? So I don't think that in the long term that the people who blame themselves really did have such a great outcome, right? There's a lot of caveats about it. Because again,
that makes sense.
So there is trauma, and is also really true. The trauma, I consider it, I mean, shame is a symptom, is a symptom of trauma. It's a
Huge
hallmark
symptom. And it's very common among people who have trauma.
Yes. And so in that sense, right, typically in somatic terms, right, this is about something where the sympathetic system got unhooked, like we go into freeze. There's a sense of inability to do things, feeling stuck, right, being overwhelmed by this sense of ontological shame, right, something about the essence of who I am, that I'm not clear what it is, but there is something wrong. And I don't, and I, you know,
I'm not good enough.
Yes. Of course, I should also say that there is also another category, like moral injury. And moral injury is when, for example, for soldiers who are out in combat zones and they have to kill people or civilians, or something happens, as well as people who in a traumatic situation had to inflict trauma on somebody else, right? So there is this aspect of it. We call it moral injury.
That's my trauma. That's my shame. Moral. But not to the extreme that you're saying.
Moral injury specifically is when we had to do something that goes
that we don't
against
believe.
code.
Yes,
when
exactly.
And that one is different, because there is an objective violation, right? There is something we did that violated our moral code. So here, whereas this is not just a symptom of collapse, right? A symptom. This is something I have to really engage, that has to have also ethical answers, ethical reparation, right? Typically, it doesn't help people who carry this moral injury. It doesn't help to say, oh, you're not guilty, you have to get rid of shame, find your sympathetic, you have to move, you have to get rid of the. It doesn't work. It has to be acknowledged, right? And with whatever context there was. And also typically there is an aspect of a reparation that is really important to come back into congruence, you know.
It's when you go against your moral deep moral codes.
Yes.
Yes, because you're in a situation and you have to,
Yes,
because
exactly.
you don't have other choices.
Yeah, right. And this is such a difficult situation, but it's not unworkable. Nothing
Yes.
is.
And what's the connection between shame, developmental trauma, and addiction?
Hmm. So again, this is a great question. So developmental trauma, again, shame as a hallmark of trauma.
Mhm.
So there is a deep connection, right? And of course, when
Exactly.
we say developmental, we're also somehow implying a sustained pattern, right? Developmental trauma typically is trauma that happens early in life, or that anyway happens for a long time, right? That it's prolonged, and it's something that, anyway. So developmental trauma carries also this mirroring, right? We suffer this situation, we are abused, we are neglected, we are treated as, or we are hurt, physically attacked or used, right? So we get that mirroring, we get that reflection that we are unworthy, right? And of course, what is out there then becomes internalized. So it's very important, right? In developmental trauma typically does carry that. And also, if you think of the tendency of every child to be egocentric, right? Every child, if the mom gets sick, must be somehow, right? We have to tell children, this is not your fault. You have nothing to do. And we have to say it many times, because the child will feel that somehow they are responsible for everything. They're the center of the world, right? So this
It's
type
so
of,
important. I know even with my daughter, she's 3. And when the pharmacist, this is a while ago, but the pharmacist said she needed to know wear no diaper. Just for in the house, not all the time, just for like a little bit at a time. And she would have accidents. And she'd show shame. And I noticed she was feeling shame. And I would make I did not scold her because I could tell. Instead, I would say, it's okay. I make mistakes. I make accidents too. Right? Because as a parent, we need to really look at our child and reflect and look at them.
yes,
Because a lot of shame is created in our development and we hold it into our adulthood. So
yeah,
just being very aware. And now, like, she hasn't had an accident, but if she was to have, she had, after that, she had accidents. She didn't show shame. It's as
right,
simple as that.
yes, yes. And good for your daughter and you. That's great. Yes, absolutely. So again, right, this self-image, right? First of all, is the image that's given to us, that's reflected back to us out there, right? In the world of a child or in human development, right? What the inner landscape at the beginning is the things that are out around, right? The world that I have around, the way that I am in the world, the reality that's outside, then becomes inner reality when we are children, right? These are the messages about who we are, what we can do, why we are how we are, right? And then when we grow up, it flips around. The internal experience tends to actually set up our external experience. And so we get to work with it in
Which
another.
can lead us to addictions.
Yes, addiction, talking about addiction. So addictions have a lot to do, right, with this difficulty in self-regulating. And shame is a dysregulated state that tends to, that again, right, carries the feeling of impossibility, of not of being stuck, right? Losing the sense. So addiction can be a way that people really self-medicate to be able to downshift, to regulate, right? To self-regulate, or to give to give the energy to do things, right? To put one up. So it depends, of course, then also so and substances, but addiction also in a way, right? It says, I think has a lot to do with developmental trauma, because the drug, the substance, whatever, or the action takes the place of that pacifier, right? Of that,
a mama's hug.
Yeah.
Right? If they're missing a need, and so they go for a drug. They go for some type of addiction because there's a need that's missing, or needs that are missing, and it's to try and take away the pain.
Yes. And there is ritual, you know, there is ritual, there is, I think also addiction is connected to all this also, I think, because it does carry, there is that spiritual quality, right? It's distorted, but it's there. Addictions, they feed off of that in so many ways, right? People have transpersonal experiences when they use drugs. The point is that these experiences are not integrated. They stay outside. The ego is not transformed, is not touched, is not nurtured by these things, but they are experiences that are transpersonal. There's the ritual again, right? And that sense of community also that people find
Community, yes.
Using substances. So there's so many different aspects, right, that are connected, and where people with dysregulated nervous systems are so much more vulnerable, right, to addictions of all kinds.
Okay. All right. And how do we start to process our shame? Through somatic processing, through and what advice did Carl Jung give it on shame?
So Jung in general, I think this is also shadow, right? In general, Jung would have this attitude of trying to meet it, right? Try to look at it, and look at it also, for example, when there is the thought around shame, or I have dreams that somehow feel connected, right? The unconscious can say very important things about the reality of the situation, right? So for us, from this point of view, from a Jungian point of view, we try to pay attention also to the corrective function of the unconscious and unconscious activity. There is something also about the mortification of the ego that comes with shame, that can come. So I would say, in short, that I think working with shame has to be also a cognitive process. That it has to be reframed cognitively, to be recognized, right? To separate maybe the components of whatever journey people have had with this shame, right? That then sometimes becomes really a piece of identity. I am
Exactly. It becomes identity. It can.
Exactly. And in that sense, right, then it's not moving anymore. It's not somatic. It can have it certainly has a somatic configuration, but if it's a piece of identity, it's not gonna move. I can sit with that sense of mortification and feel it for a long time, and nothing happens, only more shameful thought or shame triggering thoughts, right? So I think it's very important to talk about it, to understand, to find its correlates in the body, and to understand, right? Because also, of course, in traumatic terms, I find that a lot shame tends to resolve also when people find the protective reactions, because some of that shame is also that feeling of self-betrayal, of that defense not coming in. You know, people freeze when they are terrified, when they are scared, or we lose our words, we cannot say. And these are things that people have to understand, because otherwise you cannot really process. It's important to have this understanding, right? And also to have the experience that then, you know, suddenly these arms, they actually come back online, you know, and there is this sense that I can make space. And once this happens in the body, it's an experience I have. It didn't happen then, but it's here. I can do it. I understand why I didn't do it, you know, or it wouldn't have helped, but in that situation, right? Probably freezing is the safest things, right? It's a very natural and appropriate reaction, right? In the instinctual reaction, but it has to find, and at some point when we are safe, right, we have to find a way to move through it.
Exactly. And even like noticing what is happening in our body when we're feeling the shame and feeling into it. So often we just want to curl up, just allowing your body to just curl up and closing your eyes and just feeling into it just for a moment. And then notice what's happening in your body as you start to bring our shoulders up and wide. I invite everyone to even do that today. And just closing their eyes and just with their shoulders open and notice what's happening in your body. Before doing this, ideally you should be resourced. So even grounding your feet into the ground, putting your hand on your heart, and breathing into your heart. And taking that deep breath. Noticing how it feels in your body. And just noticing if you feel a safe place in your body. It may be your legs, just keeping your eyes closed. It could be your arms. Grounding your feet into the ground. And you feel that sense of peace. Just again, feel into the shame. Go into the body, lean in, just the shame, just a little bit. And then bringing your shoulders back up. It's literally just a little at a time. Bringing yourself back down. Making yourself as small as you need to. Allowing yourself to say what you want to say. Bring yourself back up into your shoulders. Having your shoulders nice and up. Feeling into your body, how it feels with your shoulders up. And putting your hand back on your heart. Grounding your feet into the ground. Letting out a breath. Finding that sense of peace and comfort in your body. A sense of safety wherever you feel it. Just breathing in. Feel that sense of safety. And with each breath, just allow yourself to expand that sense of safety, that sense of peace into your body, letting it expand a little bit more and a little bit more with each breath that you take. A little bit more and a little bit more. I believe with shame, it needs love. We need to love our parts. And if we can love ourselves, and if we can have others love and accept us for who we truly are, and have connection with community, that can bring significant healing to our shame.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining. And if you would like to learn more about trauma, please subscribe today and check out the box below. We're happy to provide sessions for you. Both of our informations will be there, and we're here to support you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining. It was an honor to have you.